should be live now.
Thank you very much. I am calling to order the Albany Public Library Public and Governance Committee meeting. Today is February 2nd, 2021, and we are meeting virtually. Do we want to do roll call or take it from our participant list?
We're indicating that Brigitte Pryor is present, Brenda Robinson is present. Also present is our executive director, Scott Jarzenbach, Melanie Metzger, the assistant director. I am Rebecca Delgazo, administrative assistant. Adam Stump is here from our financial business office. And we have word that Jenna Patera will be joining us shortly.
And I am just filling in until our leader shows up.
Sorry, I forgot
you. Have we had any public comments submitted?
We have not received any public comment.
Okay, thank you. Well, we will move forward on our agenda to our unfinished business. And the first policy we have is use of technology by staff.
So if you want to, I can share my screen.
Yeah, do I have to unshare first?
I believe so. Okay. Yep, because it tells me one only can share at a time. There we go.
Okay.
There it is. So can you see it now? Okay, so just a review of this one. We just did not have the redlined version when we brought it to the full board during our January meeting. So this is the redlined version. It shows you here that we took out the word mobile and just said personally owned devices. And we, while library employees are not required to use personally owned technology devices to complete their daily job duties, we understand that it sometimes happens. And then we also added the line, the library is not responsible for maintaining personally owned technology devices. So it was pretty much, we added that and then just removed the aspects of mobile devices for that reason, or the term mobile, and just changed it out with technology. And I think that was it. And then yep, that was it. Okay. So that's really the only changes we made. So if everybody's okay with this redlined version, we should be able to move.
This policy was already moved out, right? We just brought it back because they wanted the redlining?
Correct.
Yes.
Right?
Because we did not have the redline version. So I just wanted to confirm this is the correct version that we'll hand them. We'll hand them the redlined version.
Correct.
Yep.
Any comments on that? Any concerns?
No.
Okay. All right. So we will move forward, continue on to our room use policy.
Get to that one. Okay. So once again, let me go to share screen, reviews policy. So here you can see.
Also on the agenda for the room use, we have the room use policy and another document from ALA, someone attached.
Yep. Can you see that one now? Where it should say 2021 ALA virtual midwinter meeting at the top. Okay. Scott, do you want to speak upon this?
I mean, I would like to see some of the adoption of the language in the proposed ALA. Ripley wants to speak on this. I want to, some of that proposed language I would love to see in this policy.
I'll give people a little bit of background.
Yes,
on this. Okay, so at in January, at the end of January, ALA had their annual midwinter conference, which is when they do a lot of their business work. So anytime any of their bylaws or anything need to be changed. So, it was brought up when we spoke about the room use policy the last time that, ALA Bill of Rights talks about, fair and equitable use of the rooms and how it's neutral and there's, no turning away of any groups based on prior rhetoric used. And, our director brought up, the fact that we're in a situation now where we can't remain a neutral party anymore. That was kind of an umbrella and something we always kind of, as a library industry, we always hid behind. That was our kind of out is, hey, we can let, we're a neutral party. We let everybody speak. That's the way we've always done things. Well, ALA actually had a conversation about that at their midwinter conference and came out with this statement. If you look here, where it's under the resolved area, it says, resolved that the American Library Association, on behalf of its members, acknowledges the role of neutrality rhetoric in emboldening and encouraging white supremacy and fascism, apologizes for past harm caused by the profession and within the association and the association's repeated failures to address white supremacy and fascism, and charges the working group on intellectual freedom and social justice with a representative from the Committee on Diversity to review the neutrality rhetoric and identify alternatives, sharing its findings by July of this year, July 1st of 2021. They are.
Wait,
I just wanted to jump in here. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What were you saying, Rebecca?
I can't. I'm only seeing the room use policy. I'm not
Hold
seeing
on.
the ALA.
Yeah, she didn't.
I thought when I said, are you seeing it?
I'm only seeing the room use policy.
Okay, I wasn't sure because sometimes if I go between screens, it still shows.
But it's in board docs in the attachment.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
In board docs.
There you go.
It's the same board docs, it's in the attachment because I had read it earlier. But
So
I just want
can you see this now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a few. I just like to make a comment about it. One of the things is, as far as the room use policy and being very careful what we restrict and what we don't. I just want to clarify again, as far as using APL as an out. Me personally, that never was my intent. I have a concern about making sure that the library is always accessible, and I do have a concern of applying restrictions that typically have a negative impact on minorities and low income folks. So I think when you're moving forward and you think about room use, you have to be very careful when you're speaking about restrictions. For me, it's not a point of hiding behind anything. It's a point of making sure that access is fair and equitable for everyone. And in saying that, I do like what to be strolling through an old that I had from the Cambridge Public Library. And I think rather than trying so much to change and put a bunch of restrictions in a room use policy, adding our own policy in regards to hate speech. And I just wanted to read a little bit from this particular policy. And it's called the Public Library Policy Regarding Hate Speech. It says the American Public Library support an individual's right to free speech. However, the public library at the heart of the community's civic life must be a safe and inclusive place for all people to come and to enjoy. The library embraces, celebrates, and reflects our diverse community and country. We strive to create an environment where people from varied backgrounds and experiences can engage with one another respectfully, explore ideals in art, evaluate information, and acquire new skills and knowledge, including learning about human experiences and perspectives which are different from their own. Therefore, this public library will not tolerate hate speech directed at patrons or staff. Hate speech is a communication that carries no meaning, especially in circumstances in which the communication is likely to provoke violence. It is an incitement to hatred, primarily against a group of persons defined in terms of race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, religion, sexual orientation, and the like. Hate speech can be any form of expression regarded as offensive to racial, ethnic, and religious groups and other discrete minorities or to women. And it goes on to say further, and it identifies also the behavior policy of the particular library. And it further says that hate speech directed at a member of the public library or staff clearly violates the behavior policy, blah, blah, blah. So that's
I like
just
that.
my
I like
piece
that
on it.
too.
I think adding some type of policy like that certainly addresses a lot of the issues.
I mean, I think what we were looking for with this, and we get obsessed with meeting rooms because this is where it gets challenged the most. But that I just want us to do something. So I really like that.
Yeah.
So can
I
you,
think that puts that statement out there.
yeah, can you
Right.
send us a
Yes.
copy and then
Yep. Mhm.
we'll look at it and then maybe bring it to this committee after Bob's looked at it to tell us.
Right.
Because Bob also in the last board meeting said he is going to look at the policy to figure out if there's something that more addresses the subject than meeting rooms.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
looking at behavior and stuff.
But I like that. I like the
Definitely.
idea of just having even though I'm always not wanting more policies, that I like as an idea as a standalone policy.
Right.
That one I think deserves its own policy.
Good find, Brenda. I like that.
Oh, great. Thanks. Any other comments on that?
So for now, knowing that if we do that, do we want to table the discussion
we
on the room
should.
use? Because if we create this other one, then we'd want to include it in the room use as a
Right.
policy. Because I know we refer back to the behavior policy in room use,
Right.
that you would have to adhere to the behavior policy.
Right. And I think that it'll be nice just to handle them all together. So
Okay.
being that we have room use in mind, we create another policy to hopefully impact that, then I think tabling it and making sure that we're addressing all the elements that may arise, I think would be a good idea.
Yeah, and it will come back. Melanie, I like Melanie's point of it does come back to the behavior policy. So we may need to look at all three just as a quick review of all
But
three.
what I did when I was looking at that, when I read this, and I know that this particular policy really referred back to their behavior policy, I went to ours and see what was in there, and I think we'll be looking pretty good using that. We got a pretty good blurb in there in our behavior policy, so it's very supportive of a document like this. So
Awesome.
all right, so if no further comments or concerns about that, we will move on to new business. And first in our agenda of new business is our purchasing policy.
Okay, so let me bring that one up. So the purchasing policy, for the red line purposes, let me just make sure. We added purchasing and expenditures policy because we added a bit about expenditures later on in that. So the title and purpose changed by adding that word. And then essentially it was this check signing bit and the use of credit cards that was added under these policies. So We now have check signing. The board treasurer will sign all checks after approval of the check register by the Board of Trustees. Checks for payments in an amount over $10,000 and any check made payable to the treasurer as payee shall require a second signature by either the executive director or their designees or the board president. Which was this one and the next one, the use of credit cards, were vetted by the purchasing or by the finance committee, because these were discussions made in regards to some of the finance discussions. Use of credit cards. We added the staff of the library may use library assigned credit cards to facilitate cost-effective purchases for the library. Cards will be assigned at the discretion of the executive director and budget manager. Cardholders and their authorized designees may use the credit card only to pay for goods or services for official business of the library and consistent with library policy, including this policy. Personal charges of any type are prohibited. Documentation detailing the goods and services purchased and the business need for the purchase shall be maintained by the cardholder and submitted to the business office. Purchases using a library credit card must be for budgeted expenditures or expenditures approved by the executive director. There's a note on that one that Bob had previously suggested, including the sentence, all purchases using a library credit card must be approved in advance, except in cases of genuine emergency. And so this sentence is one he added as an alternative, because we actually struck that sentence completely from the original discussion in the finance committee.
That's not how we use the cards.
I had a question.
Yep.
As far as the credit card, is it only given at the time of purchase, or is someone holding it all the time?
Someone holds it the entire time, but any purchases that are any amount of money on the card has to be paid right away. We are not allowed as a public entity to borrow money, so everything needs to be bought right away. So everything needs to be paid for right away when the bill comes in. So we do a pretty serious review of all of the purchases. And also the cards only go to management staff. I believe they only go, are there branch? Does Stephanie have a card, Melanie?
Stephanie Anderson, yes.
Yeah, she does have a card. So there are a few non-management confidential staff with a card.
I believe Stephanie and Bill has one.
But it's very few.
Now, question, Adam, you're still there? Because I unfortunately have my.
Yeah.
Okay. And this would have been something to run by Bob. Is there a difference in legal terminology between credit card and procurement card? Because would that make a difference with this? Because it's a card that we use for procuring items and it's not credit because we're not carrying the balance. Is that a difference?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I would have to defer to Bob on that as far as any sort of legal difference.
Because I was wondering if that would ease his.
Oh, I just Googled that, and it just says basically a P card is a charge card, and that must be paid in full each month, and that is what we do.
Yeah.
Because of credit, obviously, we have a line of credit, but these cards are probably capable of holding a line of credit, but it's just that we don't do that.
I have a question about this policy too. It says documentation detailing the goods and the services purchased and the business need for the purchase shall be maintained by the cardholder. So the business need, and you mentioned some others who are not management who carries a card. Who how is the need determined?
They have to submit
Confused.
as
So
they,
we have, essentially, we have like an envelope that has, we put all of our receipts in, and on the envelope it says, date of purchase, what budget code it's going under, and who the vendor is that we're purchasing it from, what the item is, and then what it's for. So
That's after you paid it. So prior to you spending the money or using that card, it says the business need. So when is the need? The need can't be established after you spend the money.
that's why I know during the finance committee, we eliminated that line and Bob added it back in for this red line version because we purchase and then submit after the fact.
right. And if for some crazy reason that
I'm looking at the
for
policy.
some reason that we've swiped it for our personal use, or we can't prove it's a business thing, we have to write a check to the library to reimburse.
Okay, so first are you saying the red line? I pulled up the document off the doc, the board doc. So that's not the red line one, right? I'm on the credit card one. I don't see any red lines on that.
Are you able to see the
credit card? The credit card business charge account policy, I see no red line on that.
Not on that, so because that's a separate document that we included into the purchasing. So you should be looking at the purchasing policy, purchasing and expenditure.
So what's the purpose of the credit card?
It was just, so that was the language that was written off to the side of and then it was by suggestion of the finance committee, it was included into this purchasing and expenditure policy. That's why that has the red line. But they originally wrote it when it was originally discussed, it was originally discussed as a separate policy, but then they decided it would fall under purchasing.
Okay, so the credit card business charge account policy is going away, you're saying?
Yes, because it's not going away. It was just absorbed into the purchasing policy.
All right, so let me go to that. Make sure that's...
But we wanted to provide you guys with all the documentation of how the thought was.
Just waiting for it to load because I was looking at that and just didn't understand it. All right, so the piece that Bob mentioned is going back into this policy, right?
Yes. So, or let me see if I'm understanding you correctly. There was this separate document with a credit card statement that was absorbed into the purchasing policy, which we then gave back.
I'm waiting for my computer to load back up and to try to answer that question that I had. And my concern mainly was establishing the need before the purchase. Mm-hmm. And I really couldn't see the policy on the screen, so I'm just pulling it up now.
Sure.
But Bob's comment on the side addresses that, correct?
Yes. Well, his comment, because we had knowing in the finance committee, please Scott or Adam jump in on this. We had discussed our current procedure and how we do things, and we felt that that line needed to be struck because we don't do a pre-approval process. We're assuming that the heads of branches, myself and Scott, know what we're needing to purchase, and we would be the ones approving the justification of it. So therefore we don't do that extra step of pre-approval.
Well, if other people are using a card, then you do need that extra, even if it's just one person. You still need the extra step if it's just one person using it. How would you?
I mean, this would tighten the process.
I'm getting a little confused about it.
Yeah, I mean, this would tighten the process up. Basically, this would need some prior approval before purchases are made. I don't really object to that. The credit card makes me a little nervous as it is. I would, however, say I would change it from me to supervisor because I don't sign off on all the invoices. So, an example would be if Stephanie, if our head of collection management was using the credit card to purchase something, or Becky was using her credit card to purchase lunch for the board, the board retreat. So perfect example. One of the reasons why credit card exists. So Becky needs a credit card in order to do some of the purchasing for the programming we do. She would have to say to me, "Hey, I've priced all this out," and she usually does. I've in an email just say, "I've priced all this stuff out. Am I allowed to spend X amount of money on the credit card?" And then I would respond, "Yes." I like that better than what we do now, which is
Yeah.
it hasn't gotten pre-approved.
I have a government card too. Yeah. Yeah.
So this will make some things difficult. There will need for some pre-calculation of money to be spent. But I mean, I'm open to someone saying I need, because like our heads of branches, they go on a supply run every few months to buy all the supplies needed for programming. So they'll go to Michael's and buy X, Y, and Z. What I would probably expect from them is to send me an email saying, "We're doing the branch run. We would like to purchase X, Y, and Z. This is what we estimate the amount being."
Right.
And then I would approve that and say, "Listen, if you're going to go over that account, call my number. Just let me know and we'll figure it from there." I prefer that. I think that's a much better control than how we're doing it right now.
I know for Stephanie Anderson in CMS and Bill, sorry about that, Bill Jarzon, or Bill, sorry about that, Bill Roselle from IT department, they both, before making any purchases, confirm with me because I'm the one who signs off on the invoices.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if it would be approved by direct supervisor, because those would be the individuals who would be signing off on any invoices when they've done purchasing. So it's not like I sign off on every invoice. It's Melanie signs off on all the IT invoices and CMS invoices. So,
and we do have a couple, because of the way certain vendors, Zoom being one of them, we had to do the monthly charge on a credit card. They don't invoice. So we do have there's a couple IT charges that get charged to the credit cards that are on a monthly basis.
And then therefore, a checks and balances standpoint, that someone else approved it instead of you just willy-nilly going to Michael's and just buying whatever. So
exactly,
it's something to cover everyone. So yeah. So I mean, I know this is a finance question, so it's probably silly, like you said, you go to Michael's or whatever, but you don't have to get 3 bids on Michael's, but you do 3 bids on other big purchases, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a heads up from the heads of branches via an email. We don't need to do a form or anything, just saying, going on the branch run, this is what I expect, this is how much I expect to spend. And then maybe,
because I think the old ways of doing business are over, and we just have to have a little bit tighter handle on spending, and old practices sometimes have to change a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Well, something in writing that you can always, put your hands on, that yes, it was approved. Here it is.
Yeah.
I didn't just go buy yarn.
And that, that may help with some of the, because Becky does the kind of some of the credit card looking over, and Adam does looking over the credit card. That might be helpful to you, Adam, and just when you're just kind of reconciliating that credit card statement.
So for that line, so purchases using a library credit card must be for budgeted expenditures or expenditures approved by a direct supervisor? Is that how we would, instead of executive director, do we want to put executive director or his or her designee?
That's what we've been using.
There.
Their designate. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So,
All right, so with that addition to this policy, and Bob has already vetted that. Any more questions and concerns about this?
so the only other one would be going back up to this purchasing or public work purchasing limits.
Mhm.
Below, schedule establishes the requirement for various purchasing requirements for purchasing and public work procurement of the library. So it was going to be our suggestion to change these, to up them, because these were written about 10 years ago. And obviously the price of goods have gone up. So we were wondering, it was just, do we want to adjust these up a little bit, or do we want to maintain them where they are? Because as Scott was mentioning at the beginning of the conversation, some of the, a lot of the work that we have to do facilities wise falls over $10,000. And we're, even the basic stuff now is falling under $10,000, and it's stymieing the process because we have to go get the 3 quotes.
Well, it's really what I would like to see for purchase and public work would be to put public work at 9,999, because that gives us the ability to do quick repairs. So say that plumbing goes somewhere and we have to buy a toilet bowl and have the toilet bowl put in.
I personally like it where it is, to give people opportunity. If this is raised, you don't have to get written quotes.
So you're saying you'd want to keep the numbers where they are?
I would.
Okay.
What do you think, Bridget?
I really don't have that much information on it as far as to make a intelligent decision about the goods. So anything over, obviously 10,000, you have to get the quotes, right? So anything under, you don't.
So currently anything between, for public works, anything between $5,000 and $10,000, we have to get 3 oral quotes. So that's just talking to 3 vendors and like, hey, kind of handshake agreement that these would be our quotes. Right. Anything $10,000 to $35,000 for public works, we have to get the 3 written quotes. And then anything 35 and above, we have to do a formal bid process.
Okay, so your example, Scott, as far as like a toilet or something like that, that would be under the 4,900, and so you could just go buy one, right, without getting a quote.
I would say that I'm using toilets as an example, but there is definitely like industrial level toilets can be a few $1,000s, and say if a pipe bursts, that work could be close to 10,000. So that's my only real concern. The upper levels I think are good. I just feel like the public work, there's almost never any work done for under $5,000. So if it hits the $5,000 mark, then say that we have a broken pipe and there is an emergency in this, but say something happens and we need to get it fixed really quick. If it's over $5,000, then we have to get 3 verbal quotes. It's not always easy.
Right.
A perfect example is we had a tree go down at Delaware, and we found out that the removal was going to be a lot of money, and we were worried we were going to have to get 3 quotes. That's actually a recent example. We ended up not needing to get the quotes, but it was close. So Adam, what's your feeling? What do you see coming in invoice wise for facilities that you feel maybe justifies bumping the amounts up?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's too common that we get an individual invoice over, certainly over 10,000, that isn't related to, you know, a more significant project. 5,000 though, I would say we get a fair amount of just sort of routine repair work done that could exceed that.
My suggestion was going to say purchase it for the first line for the purchases, to raise that to 5,000 and public works to 7,500. And then keep the upper limits for the, you know, for the minimum of 3 quotes, you know, just that second line, the lower threshold would be just be, you know, 5,000 to 10,000 for purchases, and then 7,500 to 10,000 for minimum of 3 oral quotes. Or if you wanted for that one, raise it maybe to 15,000 and then 15, and then keep the rest the other upper limits the same. Because I know, like,
yeah,
if
I'm very concerned about
I-
I would like certainly the upper limits to stay the same. I wouldn't be agreeable to change that.
Yeah, the upper limits, it's interesting because this got brought up by a board member in finance. So I don't think the upper limit should be changed. I do think the lower limits being raised a little bit would just make it so that we're less stressed out when trying to get small work done.
I know, like, for an example with me for IT, if I have to purchase 5 wireless access points because we're, you know, I have 1 go down in each building, so we're purchasing a pack of 5, that puts me over the $3,000 for my limit of discretion. And that's sometimes just I need to quickly purchase Wi-Fi access points. It's not like a willy-nilly thing. You know, obviously if it's more, if I could go up to that $5,000, that would make IT.
You'd probably be getting quotes anyway, wouldn't you?
In all honesty, I look for the cheapest price. I usually look for 3 prices.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way I work, just because of the way technology works. But I mean, like, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I have absolutely no problem. If we do end up keeping it, it's no skin off my back, keeping things where they are.
So your suggestion was to where it says up to the, you talking about
5,000.
the second line.
She
What
was,
was
I
your
think you
suggestion?
said,
49.
I think you said 5,000 and 7,500. Public Works to 7,500.
Yeah, and then this would go 5,000 to 9. Yeah, so 5. And I don't know, like, if this one we would want to keep at 9,000, 10,000, or if we would want to raise that one to 15,000. But
No, I would not.
okay, so that would be my suggestion. So change up to, unfortunately, the way there.
Up to 49.99.
So change the up to 299 to 4,999.
Right.
Change public works from 4,999 to essentially would be what, 749. And then change obviously that would change the lower limit, but keep the upper limits for the rest of these.
Right.
So it's really just the lower end, that first level changing, and everything else would remain the same for the upper levels.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm agreeable to that. That actually looks good when you put it in the
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Bridget?
Yes.
That actually looks good.
Yes. Right.
I just don't
That's
want those bottom levels to be changed. Okay.
right. Because I think you do need accountability with
Exactly.
doing the bids and different bids and different quotes.
And I think that answers the major concern, which is just the smaller repair jobs where sometimes it's just difficult to get 3 quotes.
Right.
In a timely fashion.
Yes,
Right.
or at all. There are times where it was a $5,000 job, and getting another bid, someone would look at it and be like, I'll show up to do the work. We had that with a mason. He said, I'll show up. He's like, I'm not showing up to do a quote. I'll show up to do the work.
Right.
And it was like,
That gives you a little bit more flexibility. So
yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so I think that was the last thing that we had to address for this particular policy. I don't know where Jenna is, but can we get a motion to, let me pull this up here.
Do you want me to do it on board docs?
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to that right now.
Yeah, me too. I'm trying to figure
Well,
out. There we go.
but this would be a motion to bring to the full board, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's only the two of us, so
Yeah, I'm waiting. Right.
we can just raise our hand.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. We just say yes. Yeah.
All right. So can I get a motion to move the
I motion. Second.
second, and all in favor? Bridget and I.
Aye.
In favor.
Jazz hands.
Okay, so we get to go.
Okay.
Okay, so that was good. All right. Next on our agenda is privacy and confidentiality policy. I just looked at that.
Without Scott, you want to lead this one?
Well, where do I start with this? So we got new cameras. That's the best way to start with this. We got new cameras, and they're much better. They're
Can you
much
put it back
better.
up on the screen, the policy.
Yep, let me see. I've got to get to it. 1 second.
Okay.
So we included that in our board reports that we did the upgrade. Ripley only barks when I'm speaking. So we got the cameras for the upgrade. We reported this. This was a concern of Sarah Dallas because there is a lot of talk around cameras. We had a good discussion. But there is some questions on, so in the past, we've given, if the police asks us for something outside the library, we've said, listen, give us a letter so we know, the inside, and I wish Bob was here, because I don't necessarily agree with this opinion. So from Bob's perspective, if the cameras are facing outside and it's to look at events that are going on through our cameras on the outside, those are not library. That is not library records. If somebody's inside the library, you can watch what they do through the cameras. Therefore, we're going to ask for from a judge. We're going to ask for a warrant. But for the outside facing cameras, he says legally we may, I wish he was here. Legally, that we can do whatever we want when it comes to giving footage.
So in the past,
I think Bob needs to be here to speak to that because
I agree.
I see a lot of issues with that, and he needs to be here to definitely speak to that. And where are we drawing the line? What if I got 1 foot in and 1 foot out the library, which is easy to do? Where am I? What is the liability of that? So he needs to speak to that, I think.
Yeah, I
just to
agree.
give you, because I think Scott was fumbling a little bit, so and they come through me, so I'll explain it. When we get a request from the police office, they will say it's on letterhead. It states which building they're asking for exterior cameras, and they give us a specific date and timeline. So we're not just like
Right.
willy-nilly. It's
Mhm.
it's very explicit of what they're looking for that we've provided them. Anything interior that we've provided them, we still ask that letter, but it's for library identified crimes that have happened. So we're cooperative because we've reported the crime. So we hand them over the video.
Yeah, I think that's different if you report the crime, but if they are asking for footage of something inside or outside the library, I think we have to be very careful with that. And I would want to hear Bob's legal beagle stance on that. Not that he necessarily has to be 100% correct, but I would like to challenge him on his ideas.
So him and I have gone back and forth on this, and he says there's a legal precedent for this that we need to give up the information. I'm not sure about that, so
Yeah, because other people don't. Yeah, other people don't. So yeah, I really want to.
And I will just give the heads up that when I did the last request from the police department, when they put a request in, I'm like, we're having this discussion with our board, so we are going to stick to the policy as it is written at the moment and request a warrant. And they did respond. It is exterior, it's public, it's on public property, it's so it's not protected under, but we will honor your request and get a warrant for it.
Weird because we're paying for the technology and the service.
Yeah.
So they were saying like they kind of agreed with Bob, but they're like, but we'll honor your wishes and we'll get a warrant.
But they also have to be like in the scope of what they're looking for. They just can't be doing like a fishing expedition.
Right.
Which is why we asked for the documentation, because having the documentation requires them to have.
Other people can vet that and make that decision rather than a person just showing up or officer just saying, hey, I want X, Y, and Z from this day to that day.
Right.
In all honesty, it's one
guy.
It's one guy who does it, and I deal exclusively with him. So even if like any detective calls me, I'm like, nope, I will only speak to that detective who knows our policy.
He's an
Melody, I got bad news. I think he retired.
I know. I did notice that.
Oh, did he? Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, do you?
All right, so we're gonna take this policy until we have our
legal representation.
Brigitte, does housing deal with this at all?
Yes.
I mean, you guys have a lot of cameras.
Yes. That's why I know that one guy.
Housing, and a couple of other senior houses deal with it too.
Yeah.
The new guy's name is also, they both had the same first name, which threw me for a loop for a second there. The new guy.
Oh.
So.
Okay. All right. So again, we will table this for our next meeting to have further discussion on that. And I'm looking for my agenda here to see where I'm at on here. Let's see.
That's it.
Is that it?
That's it.
Good,
we have moved right along this agenda and did a good job.
You
Hear ye.
moved it along. You facilitated beautifully. You kept us on track.
Thank you.
We're under an hour, so you did well.
Thank you. Let's get a motion to adjourn this meeting before someone thinks of something.
I motion that we adjourn this meeting.
I second that.
Ayes have it.
Adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.